Hey, welcome back to DubyaCast. I'm finally back. Now I imagine that some of you just might be wondering where I've been these last 2 months. I will now list off all of the amazing reasons I did not do DubyaCast in this time period in alphabetical order. First, I was driving along minding my own business when I went sailing right out there.
Listen, you gotta listen. There's all this snow. 350 G's. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's in this park. Buried. Buried in Rosita Beach State Park. Just south of Dago in Santa Rosita. You just gotta dig it up, I tell ya. It's buried under this big W. And it's...
That guy's dead. You better believe it.
After I kicked the bucket, I thought things were relatively back to normal. But then my sister pushed me into a pool.
All he needs now is a license and a blood test.
A what?
Blood test. It's a law.
What a city. First they close my crap game, then they open my veins.
Nathan, you're not playing that crap game again.
Ah!
Nathan!
After I dried myself off, I went to do DubyaCast and discovered that my computer, right on schedule, had run out of space. That makes 2.75 terabytes of digital storage space I've used up thus far. Wow! I had to shell out $100 for another hard drive, and that set me back a couple weeks. After that, I performed in another production of Cole Porter's Anything Goes. This time I played Moonface Martin, Public Enemy No. 13, a lead character previously played by Burt Lahr opposite Ethel Merman.
You're so happy you land in jail, I'm your bail. It's friendship, friendship.
Just a perfect friendship.
When other friendships have been forgot.
Ours will still be hot.
Last but certainly not least, I got to interview my cousin Danny Lee, special effects for Mad World, for the second time last month. The all-new interview will be featured next week, exclusively on DubyaCast. Getting back to today's episode, we'll be discussing something that I've been meaning to get to for quite a long time. Yep, you guessed it, a review of the Mad World Blu-ray. The Mad World Blu-ray was first introduced by Walmart in the middle of last year. Its price? A mere $10 if purchased online. For some inexplicable reason, I didn't figure that it would be any better than any other release, so I didn't bother plunking down my hard-earned $10 for it. But as the fan community gave it glowing reviews, I caved in and bought it. Upon receiving it, it became apparent that I was some kind of a nut not to purchase it in the first place. Before I begin to tell you all about it, however, there is one problem with it. It can't be played on most computers. Because of this, I filmed my HD TV playing the Blu-ray. Believe it or not, this technique actually works pretty well. Anyway, I figure we can start right off with the benefits, or pros, of the disc. First off, the Blu-ray was made from a much better print of the movie than the DVD or iTunes versions. These versions use a print that was trimmed on the sides in order to transfer them to a smaller size of film, thus omitting much of the original picture. For example, in this frame from the DVD, the medium-sized fan palm tree that's on the far left is half out of the frame, but on the Blu-ray it's there with room to spare. Another few scenes that work especially well in this medium are the car chases, the crowd scene at Peck Park, the scenes in Jim Backus's plane, the end of Act 1 montage, the 17 different ways discussion, and the spectacular end sequence. Second, the Blu-ray has amazing sharpness and picture clarity going for it. When Marvin Kaplan, who appeared on our show last episode, is telling Milton Berle that he can't rent him the truck,
I told you, mister, we can't.
you can actually read the numbers on the $1 bill he's holding. Also, street signs and other things can easily be read. After they find the money, you can actually read the serial numbers on the 100% real $100 bills. I've posted a list of the readable numbers on the DubyaCast Facebook page, so if you ever run across an old-style 100, not like this one, go ahead and check it. You might just have some of the Smiler's loot. It's also worth noting that, when they chase Phil Silvers and throw him into the hole, loose funny money is visible on top of the real cash.
Grab him! Grab him! Get him! Get him! Hold him! You didn't cheat anybody but yourself because now you're out!
Another good aspect of the Blu-ray is the first 7 or so minutes of the movie. First, the Oscar-nominated overture that originally played at the beginning of the movie has been added back in. Also, the opening Saul Bass titles have been restored to their original multicolor scheme, making the first overall part of the film a whole lot more faithful to the original. Just so you know, the overture is supposed to play over a blank screen, in keeping with 1963 theater practices. Yet another great quality of the Blu-ray is the frame rate. Instead of looking ever so jumpy, jittery, or just plain rough when something moves, this version of Mad World makes you feel like you're actually there. This is largely due to the incredible amount of individual frames that flash before your eyes in a single second. The effect is almost impossible to capture with an ordinary flip camcorder like what you just saw, but believe me, it is amazing! Next up, the Blu-ray is saturated color-wise a lot more heavily than the normal releases. Some have criticized this, calling it oversaturated, among other things. But if you truly look at a previous home video version, the color is just a little bit faded and hazy. When you compare this to the color on the Blu-ray, however, the latter starts to look a whole lot more believable. For instance, on the DVD, the grass in the Big W scene isn't unhealthy, it just looks washed out. However, we know from high-resolution publicity shots that the grass was a lush green. The Blu-ray handily matches the 1962 photos in grass and plant color. At Peck Park, you don't see the same colors today that you see on the DVD. Even though this is mostly because Peck Park has vastly changed since Mad World was filmed, the Blu-ray colors are still more similar to the current ones.
Are you sure you don't want me to wait around?
No, here's $5.
Hey, what's with the pick and shove?
Never mind your own business. Come on.
Among other highlights, the yellow on the yellow cab caps more closely matches the yellow on one of them today in a much more color-accurate situation. One of the few cons that I found was that the Blu-ray sound needs more equalization. For instance, the overture and main titles are way too loud in comparison to the Smiler scene. Furthermore, the conversation that Milton Berle and Terry Thomas have over Cokes is quite silent in comparison to Ethel Merman yelling her head off at any point. Another mildly annoying attribute of the Blu-ray is that it has no intermission music. After the intermission title card fades out, the final chord is actually cut off by the fuse crawling across the floor of the hardware store and its accompanying music. You know, it seems like those who are releasing Mad World on modern formats have yet to get it right when it comes to the extra music. First, the DVD and iTunes versions had no overture but intact intermission and exit music. Now the Blu-ray has no intermission but everything else. Sigh. And that just about does it for the Blu-ray. Overall, it's a wonderful addition to the video library of anyone who has $10, a Blu-ray player, and 2 hours and 40 minutes to spare. Price Morgan says, I heartily endorse this product. And now, it's time for some announcements. In our previous episode, Marvin Kaplan stated that real money was used in the end sequence, resulting in a mad crowd, in turn resulting in some minor injuries. However, Danny Lee, who was there the entire time, said this notion was ridiculous. I was stumped until DubyaCast viewer James Mulholland came forward with his opinion. He said that director Stanley Kramer had included fake $20 bills with a code number that could be exchanged for real 20s. This revelation effectively proves both Danny and Marvin right. Everybody's happy. And that's all for today. I'm ecstatic to be back in the swing of things with DubyaCast, and I'll see you all next week. Unless, of course, I have another encounter with a bucket. Thanks for watching DubyaCast.
Sylvester is an irresponsible, unreliable, big loudmouth, no-good bum who, if he isn't a crook, it's only because he hasn't got the brains or ambition even to become a crook.